Live from North Olmsted, Ohio, this is Square Table Degenerates Podcast.
My name's Pat. I'm a bachelor, single man of the group. Love pop culture.
And the flat earthers don't believe that. But even there, from their point of view, if you ask them to look out the window, it's going to be flat. It's not going to be no ball. So that's what I'm saying. Somewhere along
how are you
lines,
a flat earther if you believe that the space
I believe in science. I believe in actual science.
Well, I told my daughter that if in the event of a school shooting, what she needs to do is find a fat person and hide behind them.
Wait up, bitch.
I am actually losing weight, believe it or not, because I'm pretty much not eating.
Hey, this is William Hung, and you're listening to the Square Degenerates Podcast.
Smoke weed every day. Welcome back, everybody. This is Joe Varel, Joe Edibles here. It's Friday night. It's 9:30. It's time to party. None of the other guys are here yet. They're just doing their thing. It's a hot day today. Really, really hot. It's been a fun week. No more needs to be said about that shit. Just don't hate your fellow man, okay, guys? Just don't fucking hate, okay? For those of you just joined us, my name is Joe, obviously. I had the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Kelly Pavlik, the boxer. It's not a boxing show, but we do a lot of boxing stuff here because it's fun. I did this interview earlier today, and I got to tell you a couple things about it. It was freaking hot. I just got an air conditioner earlier, so in this interview, you're going to notice me profusely sweating. What's up, Jackie? Jackie's in the house. Lep TV's in the house. Sue's in the house. Sue, watch later. I got something on you on this. But yeah, I did this earlier. It was really, really hot in the house when I did it. So if you notice me watching off sweat and all that stuff, just ignore it. It happens, man. It's hot. But without any further ado, let me get right into it. This is an interview with Mr. Kelly Pavlik from the boxing world. So let me bring it up. Hi, everybody. This is Joe with the STD Podcast. We're joined here by Kelly Pavlik. Mr. Kelly Pavlik, how you doing today, sir?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Outstanding. Enjoying this nice warm day here we got in Ohio. Now, did you were born in Ohio? Did you grow up in Ohio?
Yeah, I was born in Youngstown, Ohio, and I lived there pretty much all my life. All of my life. I've been here besides when I trained out of town. So, yeah, I'm an Ohio guy.
Okay. Did you have do you have any brothers and sisters growing up?
Yeah, I had two older brothers. I'm the youngest of three. My oldest brother is 6 years older than me. My middle brother is 4 years older than me. So, growing up in the inner city and being close to everybody, schools were close. We lived right behind the school, so there was just a lot of getting around and being out and about and having fun actually as a kid at that time.
I mean, I got a brother too. He graduated same year high school as you did, 2000. Did growing up with older brothers, did that propel you into the Taekwondo and get you into the boxing and start everything off, would you say, or did that have something to do with it?
Absolutely. It's kind of funny how that all started. I have another brother who's, not a brother, but he lived right across the street. He lived
right. Brother from another mother.
Yeah, he was 5 years older than me also, and he was doing the boxing. My brothers kind of followed him to go to the boxing gym. And then his father was older, and he had a pair of gloves from when they fought during, the 30s and 40s, or the 40s, actually. And we would get those gloves, and we would go to the backyard and put the little cooking timer on, and I would go get beat up by all the guys because I was like 8, and they were, 12 and older. So, it was just being around that all the time and doing stuff like that. I think that did actually make me a little tougher, and then going from that to Taekwondo, which I think nothing away from it, but just wasn't enough, contact for me or anything at that time. And so, I was playing football, Pee Wee football, I was playing baseball, and then doing boxing and just all over. But boxing really always, to me, was like the funnest one to go to. And, I quit the martial arts, and I eventually quit football at 12. I played baseball. I stayed with that until I was about 17. So, but yeah, having the older brothers, that really kind of that roughed me up a little bit and introduced me to the sport was kind of where the boxing started.
Okay. Now, when you started as an amateur, how old were you your first amateur fight?
You know, I think I went in around 9 when I started training. Later on, closer to 10. And I think I had my first amateur fight at either 11. I think I was 11 years old when I had my first amateur fight.
Okay, so I was reading up. It said you had 100 amateur fights before you turned pro. That was all pretty much before you graduated high school, would you say?
Yeah. You know what? That was all actually in a short period of time. Starting off because I mentioned, you know, I played Pee Wee football until I was 12. I played baseball. So it was hard to get a lot of fights in there for a while because I was, you know, active in other sports. I would say from about the age of 11 to 15, I may have had only around 40 fights, which is not a lot. That's not a lot in amateurs. And after, you know, I quit the football and everything, and when I got serious around 15, that's when, from about 15 to 17 was when most of the fights came in, when I was doing the tournaments, and I was going all over the place for the, you know, the club shows and stuff like that. So I was just staying very active at that point.
Was there a point while you were doing this in high school where you were just like, okay, I'm pretty much I'm going to try at least to be a pro boxer because you're just, you know, pretty much kicking ass all the time? Or was that not till after you graduated? Because I know it's your first fight. Your first pro fight was June 16th, 2000. And if you're class of 2000, that had to be like the week after. I mean, did that play any?
Yeah, it was like I was just talking with a buddy of mine who graduated the same year. And, you know, he sent me the video of me versus Benito Zan, my pro debut. And I was like, dude, you know, in 2 weeks, that's going to be 20 years ago. And we just couldn't get over it. But yeah, it was like 2 weeks after graduating, I had my pro debut. So, but coming up through the amateurs, yeah, I would say right about the age of 15 was when the dream started kind of becoming a reality. In 16, because I was I was starting to like really lay it on people that I was fighting. Good fighters too. I was beating guys who, you know, before you fight them, you're kind of like, I don't know if I stand a chance against this guy. And then the next thing you know, you go in there and you come out and you kind of like whoop them, you know, and it starts changing a little bit. So.
Okay. Now, soon after that, you entered, how long soon after you graduated was the Olympic trials? I was reading up on that. Was that same year, 2000?
Yeah, I didn't graduate. I take that back. I graduated, but I didn't graduate. I mean, I graduated, then I turned pro. So pretty much all the amateur fights were, you know, like the big ones was my junior and senior year. I think that was February. I went to the Olympic trials February of 2000. So that would have been only a couple months of school left anyways before graduation. So yeah, I fought, I had U.S. championships at the beginning of my senior year, which I was gone. I had I won the under-19s on summer break between my junior senior year. And then I qualified for the Olympic trials. Again, that was February. And then I actually signed a contract to turn pro right around my birthday in April, where I was still in school. And then, you know, I had made my pro debut after in June.
Okay. Now in the Olympic trials, it said you lost to Jermaine Taylor, correct?
Yes.
Now later on, when you smoked him in 2 different pay-per-view fights, I mean, that's what you're most famous for around here, I would say. I mean, we used to get together all the time. We were little and just not little. I mean, I'm older than you, but you know, I mean, back in the day, 13 years ago, whatever that was. Did that, when you beat him later, did that in the back of your head, was that, you know, was that amateur loss and kept you out of the Olympics? Was that, you know, kind of a motivating factor, a little bit extra motivation for you, or what?
No, it's a measuring stick. I can say that, but amateurs and pros is 2 different ball games. And, you know, so what we kind of used from that was we were letting men use that. You know, Emmanuel Stewart and Jermaine mentioned that they beat me once before in the amateurs and they'll do it again. And even my trainer, Jack Lowe, said if that's what they're going by, then they're in for a rude awakening because, you know, I was 17. The man maturity, the maturity level at that time, especially with a guy like Jermaine who had 180 some amateur fights, you know, and had the international experience. He was 21 years old or 22 years old. That's a big difference between 17 and, you know, 22.
Right.
So we were like, okay, if that's what they want to go on, that's great. But we know in the program, now I'm the mature one. I kind of got it, fell into my own. I've had the experience. It was a different ball game now. And we were hoping that they were going off the Kelly Pavlik of 2000 or 99, 2000. So
right, for sure. No doubt. Now, what would you say? They get some general boxing questions over here. Nothing in the timeline, just jumping around a little bit. What would you say was your, not necessarily your loss or whatever, but your hardest fight that you physically, just hardest overall in terms of just physically, emotions you put into it, aftermath, stuff like that?
It's going to be surprising people, but I would have to say the Edison Miranda fight.
Okay.
Yeah, Edison Miranda, I mean, he was billed as this big-time power puncher, and he lived up to it. He was. I mean, people soon forget, but Edison Miranda was probably one of the hardest punchers around, and he did everything he hit you would hurt. And his style, he was the most feared fighter at the time, and especially for the game plan that we came up with to go into that fight was to back him up and not go backwards, which is dangerous. And nobody ever went in and backed up Edison Miranda, but we kept that game plan, and it was a tough fight. I mean, it was draining. It looked like I was just on a different level because I just kept going and going, but that was more heart and balls. You know what I mean? Miranda could hit everything he touched you would, it hurt. So I would say that fight, like after that fight, I really felt the effects from it.
Was that before or after you started winning all them belts? What
that was the fight. That was the fight that got me in line for the title. That was right before Jermaine Taylor.
Okay, so that was a knockout. I'm assuming. Where did you knock him out?
Yeah, I stopped him in the 7th round.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, was there any fights you regretted taking? Not necessarily even another one you lost, but like after the fight, out of all the 42 some odd fights you had, you're like, I shouldn't have really done this. This is kind of silly.
You know what? I'll take crap for it, and I don't care because I'm retired, right. And I'm damn near 40 now. So I wish there were some things I did different with the 2 losses. I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're making it up and you're making excuses." I got no reason to make any excuses on it. The Hopkins fight wasn't me in that fight. Was sick. I mean, it was documented. So these are things that are the truth. They're documented and they're not lying. I had 101 temp going into that fight. We had a big dispute in the locker room before the fight because of prescription medication. I had bronchitis, and
oh geez.
So that was an issue. And then also, we had to worry about the whole issue in the locker room before the fight. There was a handful of them, but medication prescription, because you can't take an inhaler because for the drug test, steroid use. And so we were on oral medication. I think about that one a lot. There was a lot of things with that fight. I had bursitis in the elbow. I sparred maybe a total of 4 times. There was a lot of things, and what we really wanted to do by heart was halfway through the camp, we wanted to postpone that fight and push it back. The big issue that comes in that a lot of people don't know about and why you can't just do that is, for me, and I'm not playing victim, but it was just a little harder for me to do things in boxing. I came off, I fought Edison Miranda, I fought Jermaine Taylor back-to-back, and then I fought Will Rosinski for a title defense. And I will admit that was an easier fight. I mean, Will Rosinski had a very good record. His trainer was Joe Calzaghe's dad, who was at the time pound for pound great. And I fought him. And then we had in talks with Paul Williams, and those fights between promoters fell through. So I was already kind of taking some heat from that, from the Rosinski fight, and then, the Paul Williams fight not happening. If I would have postponed the Hopkins fight, which we should have, I would have really have taken a lashing from the media and everybody else. So we kind of just said, you know what, screw it. I told him, I was like, I'm doing it. We can't cancel a fight this close, especially, Youngstown fans. They always came to the fights and large groups, and we are.
I'll travel as well, man. We travel deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have already sold like $3,200 or $3,300 or 3,200 tickets for that fight. So it would have been devastating if I would have pulled out. And then going into the Martinez fight, that was another one that was to this day. It don't bother me. I don't lose it. It don't affect my career, but it makes me think, like, what if? what if we were really struggling for weight now? So you have to understand, I'm 6'2". I fought at 160 from 2001 to 2010. That's a long time. 9 years at 160, especially as you're that tall and you're getting older. To stay at 160 is next to impossible. And so the time was coming in, and unfortunately, that was the time for that fight. It was just brutal trying to make weight. The commentators during the fight, Lampley and Letterman and all them, they even mentioned that they, about the stationary bike, the treadmill, everything in my room. So what I think about that fight is what a lot of fighters do. What if I would have came in a pound and a half over? Okay, so a pound and a half, I'll break it down to you at that point. That's probably a difference of 8 hours of being on a treadmill, saunas, and everything else while your body's absolutely depleted. That makes a big difference, you know what I mean, in 8 hours. So coming in, let them take my belts, let them find me. If they strip me, that's my last fight at middleweight anyways. I'm moving up, so it's not going to affect me. I really do think about if I would have done that, but at the same time, if I would have done it and won, I would have definitely not gotten the credit, and there would have been so much more behind it. So maybe it all happened for a reason,
No doubt. Now, when you win a belt, this is random amateur questions. I'm not. I do follow boxing, but I never get a chance to talk to boxing and all that. When you win a belt, do you get to keep the physical belt?
Oh, absolutely. So what they'll do is, say when I beat Taylor, so he brings the belts to the ring, and then they're his. After the fight, I won, so his handlers hand them over. I put them on more so for the camera, so people see the belt being changed over. And as soon as we get out of the ring and we're walking back to the locker rooms, one of his team guys come over, they grab the belts, and they take them back to his locker room. And then the organization, they mail you your belts, and you get brand new ones. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, you get to keep those forever.
How many belts do you have? 3? 3 or 4, something like that?
4. Yeah, I got the NABF, which was a prelude to the world title. Those are pretty good belts. You win an NABF, I mean, that's a big belt to win. And then I had the WBC, WBO, and then the ring belt, which is not a sanctioned belt, but it's the biggest belt in boxing, in my opinion, along with WBC, because that's when it kind of tells you that you're the champ of that weight class. So,
Okay. Now, was there any fights you went into like knowing 100% you're going to win? Like, say you're 8-0, and you're 9-0 fight, you're booking some guy who's
1 second.
1 and okay. Oh, for sure, no problem.
I had to put my shoe in.
Oh, I got you. It reminds you, I got to get mail my buddies a shoe in Minneapolis. Like, say you're going into a fight, you're 9-0, you got your 10-0 coming up, you're fighting, Glass Joe from Mike Tyson's Punch Out or something like that. Somebody is there fights you just know 100% pretty much that you're going to win, that you book on purpose?
Yeah, or that you should win.
Right.
But when you get into boxing, when you're in there with another trained professional athlete, even if they're 23-10, you have to take into consideration that they still won 23 fights. You also got to take into consideration that they have 2 hands. We've seen plenty of times in boxing upsets and surprising things that happen. And sometimes it's just not the fact that if you win, you have a lot of pressure too, especially before you win the title when you're climbing the ranks. If you go in there and struggle with a guy, say you beat him and it's just you have an off night, because in boxing, as I was just talking about with the 2 losses, sometimes when you get in there, you're not yourself. It's hard to explain, but it's not you that day. It's just a bad day. And you can't help that. There's nothing you can do to prepare for it. You don't have teammates. You can't call timeout and say, I'm just not feeling it, coach. Let me sit out a couple plays and let this guy go. You're in there. So you worry about that. You worry about how you're going to perform against the guy who you're supposed to beat. Also, it's not fair, but you're nervous. You should. And I could say that I think a high percentage of fighters are like me. In the back of their head, they're playing like the worst case scenario that could happen. You don't ever want to be too overconfident going in there, So yeah, you worry about that sometimes. I mean, you have to. You got to be. It's reality. I mean, anybody who trains, they got two hands. If they land a shot, they could end the night for you or make it ugly.
So would you say like it's pretty much guys like that until you get that a chance to fight somebody, then you just keep taking risks until you get that big break and get a title shot? Then.
Yeah, and it is different for everybody. Everybody seems to think if you have a promoter that your past laid out, and that's untrue. First of all, I like to say, if you're signed by a promoter, you deserve to be signed by a promoter. If you're a possible world champion or a contender or somebody who has the ability, a promoter will sign you. In boxing, promoters are scouts. Promoters want to make money, and if you don't get signed, they're not going to pass up a fighter who can win a world title. So it's it goes that way on that. But coming up the ranks, I mean, that's how it is. They got to put you in. They find the mark. I'll give you an example. When I was coming up, I was knocking everybody out. Okay, I mean, I was at one point I think like 14, 15-0 with 14, 15 knockouts. So the matchmaker at that point, they want to get me rounds. They want to see how my conditioning is, how I last if I go 6 or 8 rounds.
Right.
But at the same time, they got to pick and choose wisely that they don't put somebody in there who could upset me at that time. Again, not that person I'm fighting that upsets me is a better fighter, but that experience and the being a veteran of the ring. So they have to pick and choose carefully, and that they're going to put you in there and have somebody not ruin your chances. And it was hard for my matchmakers to do that because they would forget people who they thought I was going to go 8 rounds with, and I was taking them out. And that becomes a hard part, not so much for me, but for the matchmaker. So,
right, no doubt. I got some general fanboy boxing questions here for you. Who would you say, these aren't in any necessarily order, so if they jump around, forgive me on that. Who would you say was your best heavyweight of all time, in your opinion?
Man, there's so many of them. Obviously, Ali was great. What he was able to do. You have guys who don't get the credit. This was a big discussion on my podcast. It seems like these newer guys, the newer era, they don't get any credit. And I don't understand it when athletes are faster, stronger, and bigger than ever. I mean, it's science, it's sports science. But I would say, Lennox Lewis, you could arguably put him up there in the top right now. Evander Holyfield was great for his era. But I would have to go with right now, probably Ali. I would say Ali or a guy like Lennox Lewis.
Okay. Who would you say is your favorite current heavyweight still out there boxing?
Tyson Fury is doing what he's doing. Here's the thing that I'm going on. These guys, now you got guys like Deontay Wilder, 6'7". You got Anthony Joshua, 6'6.5".
That's some big guys, man.
Yeah, you got Wilder or Fury, who's 6'9". On average, these guys are just bigger. I mean, they're even talking about maybe making a new weight class for these guys, which I don't agree upon because they're all still around that same weight that has been for the last 40 years. They're not coming in 320, but they're just bigger, freakish athletes and fighters. It's different. But I would say, Ray, Tyson Fury, what he's being able to do at 6'9" and how he moves and boxes. Deontay Wilder, technically, he's not the person I would show my young student, but his power is phenomenal. I mean, it's scary. If he lands them punches, no matter who you are from any era, he's probably going to knock you out. So I would say right now, and you got another guy coming up, Usyk, but the face, you got so much talent. But I would say Fury, I would say don't count Deontay Wilder out yet.
Okay.
When you hit like Deontay Wilder hits, and Deontay Wilder has a good chin. Deontay Wilder could go to distance. He's athletic. Like I said, technically, not the best fighter, but what's his athleticism and power? He don't need to have that. So it's just a different. It's evolving in right now. Boxing. These guys are just big. They're huge. They're on average 2 inches taller, 20-some pounds heavier, and they're moving every bit as fast, if not faster, than ever. So it's scary.
Okay. Who would you say, besides yourself, is your favorite all-time non-heavyweight boxer? Or
So
the best,
many of those.
Best, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So one of them is I got to put up there Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard was phenomenal. I got to go with a guy like Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya fought everybody. There's not a person that he didn't fight. I would have to say, you got Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather fought everybody, and people disliked him and everything. But you have to sit down and say that he was probably the greatest of all time. And my pound for pound of all time, it's up in the air between him and Leonard. I don't know. Those are kind of like where, like I said, De La Hoya was Toro Gotti because of his heart. I mean, you sat down and watched a Toro Gotti fight. You knew you were getting an entertaining fight.
Me and my buddy Joe was talking about Gotti, how underrated he was, how awesome that fights were. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting your money's worth. And the fun thing about Gotti was, the fight didn't get started until you got dropped. Like as soon as you drop a Toro Gotti, you're in for a long night. But so I say like Sugar Ray Leonard, Mayweather's, De La Hoya. There was just a lot. That late 90s and early 2000s welterweight crew, those in my opinion was like the Fab Four. I mean, if you really go by their record, their resume, who they fought, and back to back against the opponents, it's not even an argument that theirs were the toughest. So, I mean, it was a great era.
And a follow up to all this, who would you say is your GOAT boxer? Like if somebody was coming in from another country, say, "Hey, I want to introduce me to boxing," and here's an example you show. Who would you show out of all the boxers who ever boxed?
Again, really hard. I would probably have to go with a guy right now. I would have to say current is somebody like a Mayweather.
I would probably say Mayweather myself. Yeah.
Yeah, because believe it or not, he's not really. It's hard to explain. I'm trying to break it down. You have basic fighters, and I explained this before on my podcast. Basic fighters is not an insult. I got to move, man. I got to get my charger.
Oh, okay.
Low. Yeah, it's not an insult when I say that, but a basic fighter, what I mean by that is they're a guy who they fight, they don't do anything flashy. Okay, they're not a guy who moves all over the place, all around the ring. They're super talented, and some of your best fighters ever were basic fighters. That's what I'm saying when I say basic. So because a lot of people got mad when we said that before. Like when we said like Ray Leonard was a basic fighter, they're like, "What are you talking about, basic?" It wasn't an insult. It was that he didn't do it. He was not a flashy guy.
Right.
So Mayweather, to me, okay, so like your non-flat or your unbasic are guys like Prince Nassim Hamed or Hector Camacho. I would even say kind of like a Pernell Whitaker who really moved a lot and then threw from different weird angles. Sergio Martinez was not a basic fighter. And then your basics are guys like, in my opinion, like Tommy Hearns, Leonard. Today you got like Terrence Crawford, Earl Spence. They're the guys who just come in, systematically break you down, are super fast, and they throw normal punches,
Right.
So I would say Mayweather, because of his style, his defense, his punches. I would say a guy like Canelo Alvarez, who's just he puts his punches together, and his combination is so nice. Terrence Crawford. Those are guys who I would show, when a kid's coming in to learn boxing. Those are who I'd want him to see.
Okay. Now, all the sponsorships you've had over the years, like back in your prime, even today, would you say you had a favorite sponsorship, one you really wanted and you got, something like that?
Absolutely. Affliction, they gave me a shitload of money. So
Nice.
yeah, Affliction was big. I was fortunate there because boxers don't get a lot in endorsements. And it was just a good time coming up. That's when Affliction was really taking off, the clothing line. And so I got free apparel and then, a check. And I had to do signings where you got paid for that. So I would definitely say Affliction.
Okay. This would probably be a good time to ask you I was looking up your podcast. Now it's called the Punchline on YouTube is what I saw there. Now, did you stop doing it just because of the quarantine pretty much? And there was nothing going on, or what was going on there?
Yeah. Quarantine. Listen, I got a lot of different mixed feelings on coronavirus. I lost a friend who was a year older than me to it. He did have underlying health issues, but I had also a buddy who was on a ventilator for a week and a half who was perfectly fine and only 41 years old. I have a wife who has asthma. So, my thing with that is I own a gym. I'm involved in a bunch of different investments right now. And believe me, I want to attend to them more so than anything. My gym is open, but I got to be careful. And then, so instead of adding extra things to take any chances of catching it, I'm trying to minimize them as much as possible. But we are doing it. We're going to probably resume here in about 2 weeks. I just wanted to kind of give it a month or so after reopening to see where everything's at. But we probably will get back to that. We've been doing it for a while. We have a great fan base, and it's fun.
Okay. Now, do you play video games all year, or are you a little younger? Maybe you probably used to play some video games.
You know what? I ain't gonna lie to you. If I said I do play video games all the time, I don't give a shit because I retired at 30. So
right.
Do what you want when you retire. I don't include my investments or my businesses as work, but I do keep myself very busy. I have to, and so I don't really have much time, especially with the kids, because when I get free time from all that, I like to hang with them and do stuff.
I'm the same way.
I have recently. I get these little spurts. So fight night was one of them. Like I was just
gonna ask about that. Do you play as yourself, or do you, like when your buddies playing? Do they play as somebody else? You play as they play as you.
A lot of times they'll use me, and it makes me mad because I have a hard time beating me up. But I when it first came out, I did. And then I have a buddy, Lonnie, who's actually, I got into powerlifting, and he's my powerlifting coach. And I played him every night. Like I get it for like a month. It was a text like, "You ready to get your ass whooped?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." So we play online. And then I take a break though. Like I got a little gamed out, Now I got an issue because of the quarantine. For 3 months, like I said, I just sat around doing nothing, and I found all of a sudden that GTA 5 online, and I ended up getting stuck on that now. Okay. And actually, for a week, I was finding myself staying up to 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, playing it because I would wait till like midnight, when everybody was in bed. I didn't want to take the time as being a father, like. My wife's down here. I'm not just going to walk away and go play a video game from her. Oh, yeah. My kids, my son.
Especially GTA with all the swear words and stuff.
Yeah, I got 2 consoles, so I didn't want to. Well, I have my own area where nobody's around when I play it. But I didn't want my son being, right. So I didn't want to hog up his game consoles. He's only 10 years old. So it'd be unfair to him not to be able to play his Fortnite or whatever. So, yeah, that, I got into that for a little bit there. And, it was more so making the money and, all that crap. You just fall into these video games. So would I say I'm a gamer? No. 2 weeks ago, I did do an online on that Switch account. It was a big thing built up. I think we had like 7,000 viewers within 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I fought a guy who was, pretty big in the gamer world. He wanted to fight me. So, yeah, I play. I dabble in it, but I'm not a guy who's, all the time.
Okay, let's get into some fitness questions here because this is always fascinating to me because I'm about 6'3" and you're 6'2", so we're about the same height. And you came up at 160. Now, man, 160 is incomprehensible for me because I'm 240. I'm a pretty big guy, and getting down to 160, I'd have to starve myself for months on end and just not doing it. I mean, how many hours a day would you have to train? During that 9-year period when you were boxing. I mean, that just seems incomprehensible to somebody like me.
Well, you're on live because you said I'm actually 252 right now. You know what I mean? Doing the powerlifting and all that. And so you gain a lot. You gain a lot of muscle and you gain a lot of fat too. And for me, 160 was very hard. Of course, I'm older, metabolism, everything changes. But coming up, I had a fast metabolism. I fought when I was 6 foot, 6'1". I mean, I fought a couple tournaments at 147. So it was tough. I mean, every fight you had to dry out pretty much, but it was not that bad, especially as you're younger. and yes, it started becoming around, I would say around 26. It started becoming pretty tough. I mean, it was hard, you know, and you really had to watch. So you have a break from boxing. You have a 2-month in between. Listen, to this day, and it's no secret, but I lived, you know, in between my fights, because from a childhood, I sacrificed, you know, homecomings and parties and this and that, everything growing up. So in between, I lived, you know, and it was only like 2 or 3 weeks off, but I ate, and I still never really climbed high. I would get up to, I would say probably at the highest 177 until I hit about 26. Then when I hit 26 in between fights, I would jump up to about 180, 181, which is still normal for a guy. So, but losing it started, you know, right around there. And then, like I say, going into the fight that I lost for the title against Martinez, that was super hard. That was almost impossible. And it was tough, though. It was 7 hours a day, you know, 7 to 8 hours a day. Yeah, hard. So I don't want to hear anything on that. When people say, like, when I fought and trained, I trained. There was no, and you can see, because I think I was I had one of the highest KO percentages, but I also averaged, I was up in the high rankings on that for punches averaged around. You know, I was like high 80s, low 90s that I threw around. So that's one thing nobody could ever say, that, you know, my conditioning going into a fight, I was always in superb shape. So there was a lot behind it. There was a lot of work.
Now, retiring early, you retired at 30 years old, you retired with 4 wins, you know, right towards the end. You're pretty much at your peak, you know, like Jim Brown, you know, Calvin Johnson, stuff like that. Did like CTI and brain issues have any issue to play with that? Because you're pretty sharp. You know, for a lot of ex-boxers you talk to, you know, they're a little delayed, you know, whatever. Like, you're still, you know, pretty sharp as a tech. Did it have a lot to do with it? You know, being there for your kids, your wife, later on in life.
Absolutely. First of all, I do have the wisp, but that I've always had that. I had big lips. There's nothing I can do about that. Overbite. But yeah, absolutely it was. Listen, you know, again, for whatever thing that people want to have, or stories that they have and their theories on why I retired early, a lot of fighters do. A guy from my hometown, I know he had an incident in his career that helped the fact, but like Mancini, I mean, I had the same amount of knockouts as Mancini had fights. You know, he finished at 29-5. So he only had 34 pro fights, and he retired, if you count his comeback against Haugen, but he was done. And I believe also that the incident that happened in his career was one of the reasons. And I also think that Mancini was a business guy. You know what I mean? Like, he was smart. He didn't want to be around in the sport too long and take, especially for his style, and take too many shots. My trainer, who I ended up going to fight with, Robert Garcia, he retired at a very young age. Some fighters, that's their life. They want to do it. They want to fight. If they can fight till they're 65, they'll do it.
Right.
One thing about me, I made a pact with my wife at the time, and well, with her still, my wife. But at that time, that I was going to make, you know, I wasn't going to stick around a long time, and I did say it by 30 years old, I want to retire. One thing a lot of people don't know, and I've been saying in a lot of interviews, is this: when people win the world title, they're counting down to the next big fight. You know, when I won the world title, I was actually counting down to retirement.
Nice.
You know, I was just, some people, you know, it's not for a lot of people. And then a big part of it was towards the end of the career. I was a homebody, and I like being home. And usually when you up and leave your hometown to go train, that's at the beginning of your career. That's when, like, you're hungry and you don't have family or kids. That's when you go away to train at camps and things like that. For me to be already 12 years into my career, 3 world title belts sitting in my trophy case, and a nice bank account, it's hard to get me to leave, and 2 very young kids at home, to up and leave at that point and go away for months at a time.
Oh, yeah.
But I did it, and I tell you what, I enjoyed it too. I mean, I learned a shitload out there with Robert Garcia, but I was getting fights that were not really meaningful. And I understand, like, the first one, when you get with the new trainer, they put you in with somebody who you could go and beat because you're just learning with your trainer. But I fought 3 fights with them, and they were 3 so-so fights. And then the Andre Ward fight came along. And obviously, Andre Ward, I mean, I got rejuvenated big time for that fight. That was huge. and I was pumped up. And unfortunately, he got injured, and that's when he had that big shoulder surgery.
Okay.
There was no more meaningful fights out there. At that time, the Super 6 was going on, so all those guys were tied up for like a year and a half. And that was just a good time for me. I was done. I didn't want to do it no more. And to this day, I don't have no regrets at all about it. I'm glad that I made that decision. I'm glad that I walked away, and I'm glad that I didn't have the temptation to go back strong enough to where I did. And, you know, like I said, it's going, this July will be 8 years now that I've been retired. So it's, you know, I'm fine.
Nice. Now, I watched Joe Rogan interview a couple years, or I watched it last night, but it was a couple years back. I got touched on a couple things I saw on there. Did you, you were talking about doing Dancing with the Stars. Any follow up on that? What happened there?
Let me explain that to you. Dancing with the Stars was never really a reality, but yes, it was mentioned. I have a good friend who is originally from Youngstown. This is how small the world is.
Right.
He is a big time music manager. He was with Sony for a little while, and then he went off kind of independent on his own. He has worked with the likes of Mike Epps, Michael Jackson. I can't pronounce her name right. Rihanna,
I think it is. Yeah.
Rihanna. Yeah. He's worked with her. I mean, numerous megastars he's worked with. And he lives out there in California. We were just kind of like sitting around and just talking. And he goes, we were doing like a little PR thing. And that's where the comeback, when I said I was going to make a comeback I had the itch.
Right.
That was also thrown out there too. He was in talks with some of the executives for Dancing with the Stars, and Dancing with the Stars had an interest in it. My big thing, and I think he was trying to prove me wrong, was I've been retired 7 years. I've been out of the sport. Even the last year and a half, I didn't have really any meaningful fights. So I was kind of like, nobody cares. You know what I mean? Why would I go and do that? I'm sorry, I had an incoming call. I don't know how to get the video back on.
Oh, no problem. You still there? There we go.
Yeah, so I go, you know, we'll go that route. And so there was interest on that. And we were talking about it right before, because I was out in California when I did the Rogan for a week. So 2 days before I went on Rogan, I was just meeting with him. And again, I'm going to take advice from this guy who's worked with all these superstars. And so he was like, yeah, give it a shot with the comeback. And I did have a little bit of the itch to come back, but I knew in reality I wasn't going to come back. You know, it was more so to see where the interest level of me being out that long. And so, yeah, we mentioned the Dancing with the Stars. And again, it was real. Like, my name was brought up with them. And then the comeback. So I mentioned a comeback. And again, I thought on the show that it was just going to be done and over with and talked about for a little bit. And I'll tell you what, when I got in the car after the show, we were driving back to Hollywood to 10 Goose Boxing Gym. I had my phone off because I was on the podcast. I turned my phone on and I couldn't get it to stop buzzing. I had the UK, I had Australia, I had almost everywhere in the United States calling me about the comeback. And it was crazy. It was just one of them things I was like, wow. I mean, people still. So I don't care what anybody says. Obviously, being out that long, the attention's still there. I mean, it was quite amazing.
Oh well, I would imagine just the anticipation. You're a huge name, came back on top. I mean, or if you were to come back. I mean, you left on top, kind of coming back would be a huge story. Now, how was Joe Rogan personally? Is that the first time you ever met that guy? Oh, can you hear me? There we go. Can you hear me, Kelly? Can you still hear me? Kelly? You still hear me, buddy? Hold on. Kelly?
I'm having a hard time hearing you real quick. I can't get my audio back.
Here, let me send you the link again in the Facebook. Hold on. I try clicking again. Can you hear me again? We're having a little technical difficulties here. Stand by. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that.
No, I had an incoming phone call, and it shut everything down.
Oh, okay, no problem. All right, well, my last question before we got cut off there. When you met, was that your first time meeting Joe Rogan?
No, I met him actually. And another story with that, real quick. I'll make it fast. So I went down probably, I think it was that I did that show a year and a half ago. That was not this January, but the January before. And so January, and I went down in August before that to see him in concert. And we have a mutual friend, Matt Brown, who's an MMA fighter or in the UFC.
Okay.
And we went down to see a show, and we got tickets from my PR woman that does our podcast. So she was like, "Do you want to go back and meet Joe Rogan after?" And I was like, "There's 15,000 people here. You know, Joe's not going to want to take time to talk to my old has-been ass." And little did I know, you know, we went backstage, and the kid that opens up for Joe Rogan, he's actually really big in the comedy field. He does all the writing for the Comedy Central, The Roast. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Oh, yeah. So Tony Hinchcliffe.
Okay.
Yeah, he does all the writing for that. He's, you know, well, him and the other guy, but they're like the writers for that TV show. And Tony Hinchcliffe opens up all the stand-ups for Joe Rogan. Well, Tony Hinchcliffe is 2 years younger than me, and he's from Youngstown. He's a Youngstown, Ohio native. So huge fan of mine. And so I was talking with him, and we were backstage, and we were just BSing. And Joe Rogan was just like, "Oh, man, cool to meet you," because he's a big fight guy. And then I was like, "All right," because I know how it goes. I didn't want to stand around, linger around. I just want to let him get in there, do their thing. And they were chilling, having a couple glasses of wine. It was their relaxed time after a show like that. So I start walking out, and Joe Rogan goes, "What are you guys going to do later?" And I'm like, "I got a 3-hour drive back home. You know, we're getting ready to cut out." And he's like, "Why don't you come to dinner with us?" So went to dinner, and it was fun. We just BS till about 1 a.m.
Nice.
And, you know, I ended up going home after. And then he goes, "You want to come on a show?" And I'm thinking to myself, here's a man who gets, you know, 3 million people for a show. And I guess I just lack for myself, you know what I mean? Like the confidence. I was like, yeah, I was like, sure. Never thinking it was going to be reality. And he goes, "All right, well, I'm looking around like November for you to come on." So time passes, and like end of October, I don't hear anything from Joe setting up a date. November comes, I don't hear anything for November. So I knew at that point, I'm like, I'm not going on there. And then just out of nowhere, I think it was like 2 days before Christmas, I get a text from Joe Rogan because he gave me the number at dinner. And he's like, "You want to come on?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, I'll get back to you on a date." He texted me back. I think it was like January 7th or something like that, you know. So yeah, that's how that all came about. It was pretty neat. I got to hang out with Tony Hinchcliffe out there. He has a huge podcast that he does, and then again, you know, Mark LaMica. So that's where a lot of this stuff came. I wasn't lying to Rogan when I said I had the itch, but the comeback was a little more, you know, made up, and it was just funny to see how that transpired and just the feedback on it and how my phone blew up when I mentioned that.
Right. All you gotta do is say something, and people are just like, "Oh, that's awesome." Now, what is that? Would you say that's your favorite interview, or what was your favorite interview you've done over the years, just out of Rogan or any shows like that, or any?
Man, there was just so many. I mean, I was the most nervous for that one. I don't know if it was because of the inactivity of being on big time, you know, radio or audio. You know, even after coming out doing hundreds of HBO and Showtime, ESPNs, and you name it, I was on them. Joe Rogan, I was the most nervous for.
That was a long interview too. You were there for 2.5 hours. I was like, man.
And it seemed like 10 minutes. And I'm going to explain another thing on that, how weird it was. Tony Hinchcliffe kind of gave me a little run through of how it goes, but you ever notice when somebody gives you an idea of something, but it's just you're never ready for it?
Oh yeah.
So we get to Rogan's studio and walk in, and he's like, "Hey, Ash," and he shows you the whole studio. And so what it is like a big warehouse, a gym, because Joe's a fitness fanatic. And then you walk into like a little studio. He asks you if you want beer, this, that, dairy meat, coffee. I got a water and coffee, and I'm expecting to go and talk to him for a little bit and like go over what we're going to talk about on the show, get a little bit of an idea. And thank God that I have my podcast, and because we're unscripted and on purpose. We say that before the show, unscripted and on purpose. So there's never no format for our show. We just go right into it. But we have a little bit of help because we leave everything open to the fans. If you ever watch my podcast, you'll get used to it after about 10 minutes, but our heads are on our phones because we are constantly answering fans' questions, and that's why we get so many listeners. But Joe Rogan, he don't tell you anything. So I went in as soon as we got there. He gave me my coffee, my water. We go in the studio. I sit down. He goes, "Put your hand up to the mic," and I go like that, and that distance from it. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, "Make sure you can hear." And I put the headphones on, and I can hear. And he goes to his producer, Jamie, and he's like, "Let's go. You're on."
Cut it on, start talking. Huh? Wow.
Yeah, awesome. I was shaking like a dog shitting razor blades. I mean, I didn't know what was, going on. And you have no idea. Like, you don't know if you're going to get, because Joe Rogan sometimes can hit you with, sucker punches, and sometimes he's just right there to talk. So
he got real with you real fast. Yeah. A lot of questions like, geez, that was awesome.
It came quick, and I felt that I handled it pretty good for being on the spot. I think a little bit of the experience that came back in, but I would say that was probably the most nerve-wracking one because of the magnitude of the show. But Joe is such a great interviewer, and he's such a cool guy. He's super cool. People don't understand that. You meet Joe Rogan, I'm sure a lot of people think because of the success he has and everything. I mean, from being a TV show host to a ring announcer to a stand-up comedian to having the biggest podcast of all time. Oh, yeah. But he's really down to earth for, being that successful.
I would say so too. He just signed a huge contract, $250 million, 150 million, something like that. I can only know what to wear. Yeah. Now, I was noticing, I was just looking at pictures from back your old fights, and now tattoos. How old are you when you start getting tattoos?
Oh man. I would say I got first one at 18, and I was supposed to be allowed to get it when I won my first national tournament, but my dad didn't let me, so he made sure the 18 thing was still. I ended up winning 3 national titles before I got my first tattoo. I would say that they were influenced. I'm a big fan of music. I'm into like almost anything other than country, and it's hard because my wife's a big country fan.
I'm the same way. I can't think music.
Yeah. And it's really changed too. I don't even consider it country. Everything has become like really pulp cultured. But I was into, I'm still like at the gym when I work out, the late 90s, early 2000s, hip hop, all that stuff. But I would say like, one of my favorite groups, I think one of the more talented bands in a long time is Avenged Sevenfold. And I kind of, follow them. And, but I still wanted tattoos, and it was hard with boxing because you have your promoters that are like, don't do it. Like you got an image, this, that. And it's hard. I mean, listen, making no excuse. The more successful you are, I guess, the less you can do. And millions of people got tattoos. And to be told something that you can't do, especially in a sport like boxing, where it's brutal, I kind of like threw that notion out. I think that was where I was like, you know what, I'm going to go against it because I don't agree. And I started getting tattooed up, and they are. Once you get one, you kind of just, anybody that's got them, you really want another one. And I would prove anybody wrong. I would tell somebody, go get a tattoo on their wrist or somewhere, and I guarantee they're going to be like, well, it's the only one I want to get. And 2 months later, they're already thinking about where they can get another one.
That's the way my oldest daughter was, yeah. Now, how many? When was your most recent tattoo? Have you quit doing them? Have you gotten older and become a dad and all that?
No, because I was a dad when I was getting them. I just, there is a limit though. I said I would never go up on my neck. I would never go on my hands. I may have room for one more on my legs. I got one on my right shin, and I just want to do one on the left. But I'm out of room, and I won't run them up to my neck. I won't junk up the ones that I got. That's why I won't get another one. I won't do the neck and hand. Not knocking anybody that has it. So I've seen people that got really cool ones, but I will not go above the collarbone.
Now, I also noticed too, going back, I'm the same way as you are, both follically challenged. I haven't shaved in a couple of days, but how old were you when you started shaving your head? I haven't seen a picture of you with hair. What happened?
I think I hit puberty and lost my hair. I don't know. It was, I say 19, 20, I started thinning. That was another funny one. I was fighting a kid by the name of Grady Brewer, and it was on ESPN2, and I knocked him out. And as he was going down, the fight was over. It was the final knockout or knockdown. He came down with his elbow and cut me. Ooh. And I go back, stage, and they asked me if I want staples or stitches. And I said, what's the difference? And they were like, well, with staples, we won't have to shave a patch. With stitches, we'll have to put a patch in your hair, on your head. And I didn't want the patch, even though I was thinning. I just didn't want to have that shaved. So I got the staples, and I went through my dad picking on me, calling me Frankenstein and everything. And shortly after that, though, I put up that big fight about getting staples, and I ended up just shaving my head anyways because I was losing it. So the first early on in my fights, if you go and put like Kelly Pavlik top 10 knockouts or highlights, you'll see a couple fights where I got hair. You'll be like, whoa. But I would say about 21, 22 was the end of the hair.
Okay, that's probably about me. I would say 20. I was in denial for many, many years, and then just past couple years, I started going all the way myself. Yeah. Now you're from Ohio. We're both from Ohio. I'm from Cleveland. We're up here in North Olmsted. You're out there in Campfield, Youngstown area. You stayed in Youngstown. You're just like me. Not that I was ever got famous, but after everything, you just came back home. What would you say? Just kept you in Ohio? Is it just once we're from Ohio, that kind of thing? We just like staying here. Why didn't you ever move to LA, Vegas, that kind of thing?
That's true. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's really tough. And there's one day we get in that more. As I was saying earlier, the more successful, the less you can do. And that's just all reality. It's true. And it's not crying. I'm just I call Bluebird blue. I'm a homebody, never had anything against that. And were times I wanted to get up. On the other side of it, and not unfortunately, I guess fortunately for my kids, they have a huge, huge family. My kids got, no exaggeration, I would say around 30 cousins within 3 years of their age. My wife's mom is one of 13. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and then there's just a lot of kids, and it's a real close family too. Usually a family that big, you don't see it, but they're all close. And I thought it would be unfair to my kids.
Okay.
And secondly to me, I'm comfortable here. This is home. I think that hurt me in the long run. I think being a homebody and feeling like I'm everybody else and not being stuck up, because if I didn't go out and I wasn't out and about around people, I'm too good for them. And I think I'm stuck up. And I've heard that with people from Youngstown that eventually moved out of Youngstown. When you stay here, you're a bum and you're, this, that. So it was tough, and it was a tough decision, but I like it. I like it here. And I could, fortunately because of my hard work, I could do pretty much what I want to do, and it's better for my kids. Let them be close with their family. Let them be close with their cousins.
It's awesome.
And have it. They enjoy it. They go to vacations, and we all do. And they have all their friends. And I think that's cool. That's something that they're going to cherish. I think it comes to a point when you have kids, it can't be about you no more. And that's why, like, a lot of things I've stopped doing, not because of really too much of anything else, but because of the kids and what's best for them. So that's where it comes down to.
Okay. Now, would you say the party scene out this way in Youngstown and Cleveland compared to LA and Vegas, is it just better out here? I always thought it kind of was, like you go downtown to go to the flats, you go recognize the people. Hey, you've seen this guy, your whole life. You got generations of families going back, as opposed to you go out there, it's like, hey, I'm one of, 8,000 people who just came here to be here, and that's it. Did you like? Do you still get recognized when you go out? Do you just love Youngstown? Just love the area? I still get like that too. Do you get like that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it goes both ways for me. But Cleveland. Obviously, Cleveland got more than Youngstown. I'd never been to the Flats. The one place I go up to and I love the owners is Barley House.
Okay, I've been to Barley House.
Guys up in Cleveland. And they got a lot of the athletes like the Browns go there. Youngstown, there's not much to do, and I think that's why, they take it if you go there and you're somebody that you're not supposed to be there. But as far as the party scene, California, what's cool about that is nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean by that?
Right.
I'm not knocking anywhere, but when I say this, again, it's realistic. People like New York, and I have a really close friend in New York who owns pretty much all the hot night spots in Manhattan, Dave Delzio. But it's cool. I like that. People recognize me there too, but nobody cares. You know what I mean? Like nobody gives a crap who you are. It's not a story the next day. You're not different. You're not nobody. Everybody's. It seems like they got better things going on. You know what I mean by that?
Right.
It's not enough. So when I say this, it's not. But their life out like the West Coast is that fast paced. Like it's just, I'll be, for instance, like go to a restaurant in Ohio. One of the smaller areas, and eavesdrop on. I do it. I eavesdrop on a conversation, and you'll hear somebody talking about somebody at work. Or can you believe this person did this? You go out west or like far east, you'll hear people talking about something funny or like a work thing or, doing certain things. So it is different. It's geographical. The party scenes, I like being home, and I'm used to what goes with it. I've been good. I don't do it anymore. Like I said, I've really gotten on track. Them fun days. Too much of the shit, and I'll be realistic. Too much shit caught up. I mean, I got in trouble for petty bullcrap. But if you really go back and think about it, a BB gun, a 4-wheeler, those are the things that I got in trouble for. But it was happening too much, and I think I was having a little too much fun at that point, and I could admit to it. And it was kind of time for me to pull my head out of my ass and start getting busy. I was retired. I was fortunate to have what I had, and I started investing and doing things that way to keep myself busy. But it was cool here because you're home, and you are more comfortable at home. The scene's out there, but the problem with that is you leave yourself open. You leave yourself open for gossip and rumors and talk and everything else. And that becomes part of it. Then you become the bullseye on the back. Everybody, they all see you, you hear the stories, which even nationally, everything stemmed from Youngstown, and it did. And people, you have the target on your back, and the same people that see you at the bar are the same ones they're drinking too. Not everybody that see me at a bar was drinking green tea. So,
right.
It's like, why are you guys able? Like, if anybody had the right to be there, I'm retired. I've accomplished a shitload. I feel like I had the right to be there, but unfortunately, that's not the way it is. And it's so when you say to California, the animosity comes in and talks over that. The scene out there is you could do it and nobody cares. You're just like everybody else. Here you can't. And but I overall rather would here it's my home. And if I would have left and packed up and went away, I probably would have got more so that I was too good for the area. And it's a no-win, but I'm content now. I mean, I don't care anymore.
Now, have you met any of the other more famous people for Youngstown? Bernie Kosar, Maurice Claret, Boom Boom Mancini, many of those guys? Oh, yeah. Me and Maurice, right before Maurice Claret went to Ohio State, he trained with me. I just actually did a podcast with Maurice Claret in Simon Arias. It was probably at the end of summer, less than a year ago. I talked with Maurice. I did a charity function just in February with Maurice. He's doing great. He's fantastic. He's a big time motivational speaker. He's all over the place, traveling, doing fantastic. I talked to them guys, Tressel,
I see Mancini here and there. You know, he's doing his thing. I'm really close with Terry Arroyo from Youngstown, who was the IBF lightweight champion. He's a super cool guy, great guy. So yeah, I talk with them guys. Bernie, I haven't seen him in years, but I've sat and talked with Bernie also.
Are you a big Browns fan yourself?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good deal. We got that in common. We're out of Cleveland, so we're all about Browns on this show.
Yeah, I mean, Youngstown, you're right in the middle, and believe me, there's a lot of Pittsburgh fans. And I never understood it because as soon as you go to the PA line,
all Pittsburgh,
which is closer to Youngstown than Pittsburgh Stadium, you won't see a Cleveland Browns jersey. But if you go to Youngstown, you'll see probably more Pittsburgh uniforms. And everybody's like, well, Pittsburgh's closer. But I don't care if your birth certificate says Ohio, you know.
That's what I say. Amen. Sue out there. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Steelers have a history, man. They're you know, as much as I hate to say it, they have a great history. So.
Oh, I know. I mean, anytime we talk shit about the Steelers, it's pure jealousy. But I mean, we're not going to tell that. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, we don't even really say we're Browns fans too much out loud, you know. So.
Right, for sure. Heck yeah. All right, but now, where did you get the nickname the Ghost? I don't know if you ever been. I'm sure you've been asked that before. I never really looked it up. How did that happen?
That was you know, a coincidence. Coming up, I was one of the few white kids in the Cleveland Golden Gloves tournaments and stuff like that. And so a lot of the guys would call me Ghost because, you know, I get tan in the summer, but in the winter I'm pasty. And, you know, so they started calling me Ghost. And the coincidence part was I was at a tournament. And when I was in the amateurs, I was a hell of a boxer. I mean, even my first couple pro fights, I boxed. And the reason why I'm telling the truth is because when you come up in the amateurs ain't about the power. You know, power is not really there. You don't see many knockouts. So boxing, I won all the tournaments a lot on boxing. And so they called me Ghost. And then I came home and I showed my brother. This was back in the VHS days. We brought the video cassette home and showed my brother Michael, who couldn't make it to the fights. And he was watching me. And I made the kid miss him. Like I wrapped around him and patted him on the butt. He's like, man, you move like a ghost in there. And it was just a coincidence that nickname came like that all at once. And nobody had the nickname. So it kind of stuck, you know, it was different and cool.
Nice. I got friends who ghost on text message all the time. That's how it would be nowadays. All right. Well, before we go, can you, is there anything else you want to promote? Your podcast is on, well, it's the episodes are online. It's the Punchline on YouTube. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I mean, right now, you know, like I said, I got a lot going. I'm going to hopefully here. I was hoping by the end of summer, but this COVID put a pause on a lot of things. But I'll be having a boxing gym coming. I have my charitable organization. And there, you know, I have the Sweet Science Plus boxing fitness app that I got out. Sweet Science with the plus sign. Okay. And that's it, man. Just I appreciate you having me on.
For sure.
It was enjoyable.
Outstanding. Same here. I'll link to all your stuff in the comments once I edit this, and we're going to air this tonight about 9:30 or so. And thanks for having us. We'll take it easy. All right, see you, buddy.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, we're back. Hold on. Let me pull everything back here. We're back live. Let me bring all the guys back here. Hold on. Everybody just signed on real quick. Whoa, what the hell's going on there? Tom's back. Dennis is in the house. We're joined by Pat as well. What's up, buddies?
Yeah.
You guys hear me?
Can you see me? No, the thing lighting is Pat.
So how, that's true.
I'm in Tucson.
Where are you at, Dennis? You in Phoenix?
Yeah.
Can we hear you, Dennis?
Yeah, Tucson, Arizona.
You're in Arizona.
Cool.
Okay, I like Arizona.
Yeah, that's real.
What'd you guys think of Mr. Kelly Pavlik? Did you like that?
Nice. All I see is clouds.
Look at you and your mountains. That's awesome. Sue, I don't know what boxing app he was talking about. There was some kind of drink he had. I think I gotta edit and post. I don't know what post means, so I'm gonna have to figure that out later. Yeah, it began with like an X or something.
He said
Sweet Science with an X or something. Link that shit in the comments so people can see that shit.
Let's see here.
Hey, are you ever going to?
Pat, what's up with you, buddy? How was your
my
week,
week
man?
is good. Do you think you'll have any medical professionals on the show to interview?
Why is that?
Hello.
medical. Anybody's available to come on the show for an interview.
I was always curious why they.
Who do you got? Somebody specifically in mind? You got like a nurse or something you want to come on?
Anybody that knows why it's called the taint.
The taint.
It ain't the. It ain't either one. It's the
taint.
It's the area in between.
Why is it called the taint?
Yeah, it's not quite your balls. It's not quite your ass. It's taint.
Yeah, it's called the perineum.
Do you have a taint?
That's it.
It's called the gooch.
I'm always curious.
Johnny Knoxville called the gooch. I thought. I remember that. No, fucking part one when he.
But yeah, that was
really, and shit. That was horrible.
It
was the naughty nurse.
Kelly Pavlik with.
I'm always curious about medical terminology.
Yeah, how did they come up with it?
Yeah, Pavlik was a nice guy, man. He right off the rip, he just said, hey, yeah, I'll be happy to do it for you. Do an interview with you. And I watched his Rogan interview and another interview with another guy, and he's man, that guy knows his boxing, dude. He retired when he was 30 years old. Right with the exact same age, Calvin Johnson, Jim Brown. More recently, guys like Luke Kuechly and stuff like that. But right at the top of his game, not for a fight. And you looked it up, he was pretty. He did have the flu for that Bernard Hopkins fight. So I mean, a fight here or there, he could have retired undefeated. Man, he's in a conversation with guys like Marciano and shit like that. So man, he's a fucking hell of a boxer. To be honest with you.
It's a pretty good interview, man. Good job.
Yeah, and it's always fun.
You guys are playing deep.
Seeing local guys make it out. Get outside of Ohio.
Well, everybody remembers. We used to get together. Back in the day, we used to always back in the 2007-ish era when we used to always get together for fights for pay-per-views. But I remember the Ghost Pavlik was freaking. That was one of the main ones because for an Ohio guy, shit too, and a white boy at that. Fuck yeah, man, we were all into that shit. That one fight he had in Vegas, he had like 6,300 people come from Youngstown just taking a trip, man. You know how we like taking roadies and shit, Pat. We taking many roadies. Dennis, you too. Fucking, you just go places, and Ohio travels, man. So because we like going because Ohio is Ohio. But it was a fun time, man.
I'm always down for a roadie.
Roadie. I think you're talking about something else.
Did you ever You should
any road trip with.
You should interview with
yeah, and road hit. I do.
You should interview the. You should interview the wrestler, the salad tosser.
Which wrestler, Pat?
There's a guy named that, like on purpose.
The salad tosser.
There's a wrestler called the salad tosser.
I don't know.
How do you know about this guy? I've never heard of him.
Maybe.
Wait. Is Pat have a confession to make? Pat, are you really a wrestler called the salad tosser?
Does his name have something to do with his finishing move? Like he does? He like.
Eat your ass and then you fucking pass out.
I mean, the 10 question.
Is
there a wrestler called the Fister?
The ass eater. Romy says he got the same hat. Yeah, I love this hat, dude. It's fucking all purple. There was like 4 of them. There was like a yellow one, a green one, an orange one. I love the monochromatic.
I don't like that. You
don't like the monochromatic purple on purple? I think it's raw, man. Shit. That bitch is raw.
I like the black sea. I like the black sea though for the Indians because it's way better than wearing Chief Wahoo.
You're about to get muted.
No.
You're just saying that because you're out in Arizona now on the Hula Pai Mahawi Indian Reservation, or where the fuck you're at. I really, really shouldn't say that. I really got to be more cultural sensitive. I really can't be fucking saying that shit. Because that's I got to put up the banner. Hold on. I gotta do it.
The views.
Put up the banner, man.
There.
Thank you.
Well, I had if you guys are watching this now, go back and watch the beginning of the show. There's a nice little message there before anybody watched on. It was a good message I gave when everybody else was, Tom was doing actual shit and Pat was organizing some yarn, I would assume. Dennis was
I was out getting fried chicken, like no lie.
Yeah, he's probably cooking out or something. I mean, if he's in Arizona.
I just went to Popeye.
You know what you should. You know what you should have asked him?
What's that?
You should have asked him what time it was. Ask him what time it was.
What time it was?
We're in the same time zone. Why the fuck would I ask him what time it was?
In case he didn't know what time it was, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
In case he didn't have a clock next to you.
Womp womp.
Oh,
yeah.
I am. Yeah, I'm in a different time zone. Actually, it's 3 hours earlier here. It's only 7:44. Crazy.
It is nice with you seeing local people get out, like make it in the country. You know, make a name for themselves and actually bring. I wouldn't say like honor, but like
notoriety
to local Cleveland, because usually we're like a flyover state. When you watch the news and watch like national weather, we're not even one of those little dots on the board for Cleveland. You know, they don't even bother with Ohio.
Really? I never really noticed, but of course I'm not from Ohio, so I don't notice.
Usually it's like New York and then Chicago, and there's nothing in between.
Well, yeah, Detroit's the same way. Then I mean, well, the only time we're in the news is something horrible. It's like, yeah, there was a triple murder or something. You know.
Brian asked when we're getting back to the studio. We should. It's kind of halfway there. You know me, I'm on stoner time, so you know, if I tell you a time, it's probably gonna be like it's sometime in June, probably.
Well, we're implementing social
distance.
Yeah, a lot of work to do in the studio. Fiberglass in between the seats, and we'll be sterilizing all the surfaces every 15 minutes.
I sterilized the back half of the studio, but I'll tell you, I was at the Home Depot yesterday, and I was going to buy some spray insulation for the back end, but there's like $300 for the kit, so I'm not going to get that. I'm going to buy that foam. It's pre-made styrofoam. You just cut it with a fucking knife and shit, and then you just pack it in there, and that's going to be the insulation, so it's not as cold and shit in the back. You know what I mean?
I just got the rolls.
Yeah. But then your hands get all. I don't feel like putting on gloves, bro. So.
Well, I'm just saying. I just want to make sure that we're within the guidelines, you know, and complying with the state. Also, whoa,
you're gonna be in Arizona. You're gonna be in Arizona for like 6 months. So what do you even care?
Right, you're gonna remote in every time. Like you're going down to after this. He's going to Guadalajara for a show.
I just don't want to.
You're gonna be in the. Like, is there Congo and wherever you go?
Is there material data safety sheet for a fire extinguisher?
My dad was he worked for not NASA, whatever the veterans one. He worked for those guys, and he was a safety person. So I know about safety, dude. Believe it.
Okay, well,
have you seen the wiring in your garage?
Yeah,
I don't know. I think we should be doing some kind of CBT, some kind of computer-based training to make sure we're all, we're checked off across the board on that one.
Oh, Brian said he's gonna help me. All right, Brian, come on over, help me out with the garage. That'd be fucking sweet. Tom said he was gonna come over too. We can have a big crowdsource funding thing so I don't burn myself. So we can have future episodes of the STD podcast. Because let's be honest here, everybody knows it and I know it. I'm not the handiest guy in the world. My skill is just fucking getting baked and talking. That's it. I don't know anything else.
That's true.
That's why the help from everybody else is good.
It's not a real talent, honestly. I mean, anybody could do that.
There's 5 live viewers right now who would disagree with you. But Emily asks, "Where's Don?" We're just assuming Don is I don't know, man.
In a ditch.
Oh, remember we had well, I don't know if he's available now.
He's in some weird.
No, he's probably. I mean, well, if it's right now, it's 10:48 Eastern, so he's probably thinking about some tacos, maybe some pizza,
a couple wings,
some nachos.
He's chasing down one of the people that was in his basement.
Oh, they gonna say he was chasing the dragon with food, like it's like I gotta get those hot wings again, man.
He's probably running down that Crave truck that's downtown that was doing like a food show, and they're like, "We're closed at 9," and he's like, "No, you're not, motherfucker!" And he ran him down 3 blocks. And
are they still doing the food truck Wednesdays or whatever, or Fridays?
I would seriously doubt it, considering downtown was quarantine or downtown was curfew.
It was going downtown.
It was Walnut.
Well,
hey,
what?
Walnut
Wednesdays
and
there was 2 of them: Walnut Wednesdays and Food Truck Fridays. Walnut Wednesdays was on Walnut Avenue. Food Truck Fridays, they just closed down Bonnie Park and it was right there.
Well, like I said, everything out here is open, man. They're doing the gyms, everything is open. It's like it's not even happening down here. So
okay. Now, have you ever been to Voinovich Park and done anything cool? Remember, you know I'm talking about the free stamp across from the Federal Building downtown.
Like what?
What's there to really do in Voinovich Park?
Take like a blanket, like make out.
Is that where the free stamp is?
That's where the free stamp is. there's picnic tables in the back you can make out. There's fucking places down that hill you can smoke. There's parades and shit. There's all kinds of you've never just made your own fun in the park. What's going on there, man?
Not me.
No, I never really I walked through it, but I never really stayed there to have an experience.
You never got into a fight by that one picnic bench?
I'm not familiar with. Is that where Jesse Owens statue is too?
No, what statue?
The Jesse Owens statue, I think.
Is there a Jesse Owens statue downtown? I thought that was on the east side. Where's that at?
No, I think there's a Jesse Owens statue. Pretty sure. I thought it was in that area. I thought it was by Williamish Park.
Let's see. Jesse Owens. I'm about to look that shit up too. I know there's a statue of Moses Cleveland. Let's see. Jesse Owens statue.
Really? Where's that at?
The Moses Cleveland one's on Public Square. All right, I guess there's a Jesse Owens statue. It says 299 West Lakeside Avenue.
Oh, yeah, by the West 3rd.
Ugh, it's so high.
Oh, it's on the other side. It's on the other side of the convention center. That's why I never seen it. I'm not allowed to go past E6, I don't think.
There's a restraining. You have a restraining order?
Yeah, because that one time, remember, I can't get into that on the air because.
Remember that time you left? You tried to go get your car that one morning when you were visiting me downtown.
Oh yeah, that was. We won't get into what happened the night before, but yeah. So basically,
that was so funny, man.
I dropped Dennis off downtown because Dennis lived downtown at the time, and I was pretty loaded. I was drinking back then, and I couldn't find my car. So this motherfucker tells me, he goes, "Yeah, your car's over on East 6." So I walk up and down East 6 looking for my car.
Oh god.
It was on West 6. He gave me the wrong fucking street. It took me like a half hour. I was so hungover that day. It was horrible.
I was hungover too. Or no, actually, no, I didn't even drink that night, did I? Well, it was funny either way.
I think I ruined that night for you. Where's Gorenflo? Let's bring Gorenflo
on. You send him a message on FB Messenger if you can.
All right, hold on. Let me. We're about to invite one of our buddies that we used to know from back in the day. Hold on.
We still know him.
Well, I guess we do still know him.
Yeah.
Let's see here. If you're out there and you want to,
he moved out of state though.
Join us. Join us on the show. Send us a message here. All right, bear with me. Can you
eaten alive by mosquitoes?
There's mosquitoes out that way. Well, when's monsoon season in the zona, man?
Dude, today, man, it rained like a motherfucker, man. Today, on freeway, yeah, it is scary when it rains here because flash flooding and all that and stuff. But
are you going to go to the Salt River this year or what?
No. I'm not gonna be here for that long. I'm just waiting to get my visa. From the consulate here.
Where's the consulate? Is it right in Phoenix?
There's two. There's one in Phoenix and one in Tucson.
Well, I guess it's pretty much right in the fucking border. You gotta have one there.
Right. There's a lot of Mexicans here, so there's two Mexican consulates here.
The one thing that was cool about Arizona is that like medial shit was fucking cheap. Like we had cars, and you can Gorenflo saw the link. Let's see if he clicks on. You can get your car cleaned out for like $9, like vacuumed and washed for $9 total. And they would do everything. You tried getting that service up here in Cleveland? That's like $30-$40 just to start. And then they fucking.
I never know.
$9 is the tip,
right?
Just the tip.
Just the tip. I looked up. Actually, I was looking at production company names, and Just the Tip Productions was already taken, so we can't do that. It's probably gonna be like Joey Edibles Productions or some shit like that.
Can we do Cracker Rich Productions?
We can't. Joe Gorenflo is about to join us here. Stand by. Joey G, three states in the house. 3 states are in the house.
What's up, boys?
What's going on, buddy? He's from Bloomington, Minnesota?
Yeah.
At the epicenter.
That's where. Give us some info on the ground, man. What's going on up there, buddy? Are you getting beat up right now?
Joe, I missed you.
Not much, man. Just, I'm just pissed off as everybody should be, but.
Were you guys scared? Have you guys been? How close has violence been to you?
Not very, man. And actually, I talked to a buddy I work with in St. Paul. He actually said that people with the Black Lives Matters sign at their yard were actually vandalized. So yeah, the people saying that white supremacy is not involved in these riots are full of fucking shit.
Well, he went right into the conspiracy stuff, but there is a certain Antifa.
Seriously, no, they had video of people who They were white people who were breaking stuff.
Yeah, there's a large contingent of them going through and just people peaceful protesting, and they're going through and just randomly breaking shit.
Yeah, but some people say they're
stopped by the protesters.
Like, is it?
I'm just so fucking mad right now. I mean, I've been mad for ever since this happened, honestly.
I see, man. It's been crazy. I mean, if there's a lot at play here. If you break down everything that goes back from February, March-ish on, okay, they shut the country down with no warning.
Yeah.
Okay, they shut everything down. So everybody, then they tell people a couple months later to put masks on. You tell people to put masks on, and you still have the same police brutality stuff. That's a perfect firestorm for anonymous people coming in. Now, if you notice, all these protesters, or the protesters and stuff, the people that were doing the looting and rioting on East 4th and stuff like that, those were everybody who came in registered. There was a couple guys from Pennsylvania, North Carolina. They tried to get fake addresses. Okay, so a lot of out-of-town elements. Everybody I know, all my friends that went down, I got 10, 15 friends on Facebook that went down
like conspiracy. This sounds like there's a lot of proof here that
I'm getting there. I had like 10, 15 friends on Facebook that went down there. Not a damn one of them was rioting, okay? And I want to know, like, that police car, there's 2 or 3 police cars or whatever that got burned downtown. I saw them burning. I didn't see any videos of who started those fires, who instigated all this shit, who's paying for the guys coming back. So there's a lot in play here. It's above my pay grade, obviously. But, I mean, there's more, there's a lot to this, man. You just don't shut the country down. You just don't have riots like that. And then, it's
some wealthy benefactor is funding it. That's what's going on. I mean, that's what all the signs would point to.
And then there's the curious thing about who's putting out these pallets of bricks in downtown areas.
Right. Well, that's already been debunked, Tom. It was I guess those were delivered to the police officers.
Oh, yeah. I saw one video where it was a police station that was getting loads of bricks in the back of the police station. But I didn't know if it was like that was one incident, or if it was just like, because I saw multiple cities had just in the streets bricks.
Yeah, that was here in Minneapolis too. Yeah, this is for my buddy Dennis in GD. I don't know if I've ever bought a case of NGD, but I felt like it today.
Yeah, I do love drinking this shit. I don't know why, but yeah. I got craft beer tonight though. I got some Arizona 4 Peaks.
Yeah, and like I was telling Dennis earlier, what's so ironic is me and my wife have been more united than ever, and she's like an extreme liberal, and it's like, I'm sorry, but if you don't say there's a police brutality problem right now in America, then you're fucking uninformed.
It's very true. I mean, it's been going on for dozens of years. I mean, anybody who knows any black people, black males between the ages of 12 and 50, anybody who dresses in what they call traditional styles of black dress or whatever, they've been harassed, they've been questioned.
Yeah, and quite honestly, man, I've been fucking harassed, dude. I've had more police interactions than probably most people have, and my interactions have not been very good, honestly. I've been fucking beat, and then I had my face busted in a cop car once when I didn't even do anything wrong.
Oh man, yeah. Not to mention that one time. Oh god.
I'm sure, Dennis. I'm sure you've had your run-ins as well.
Not like that kind. Not like the drunken.
Okay, yeah, I have. I mean, and it's just fucking unfortunate. Honestly, it's like the shit needs to stop.
Well, I mean, I think what the ultimate thing on all this is that we're finally seeing changes. I mean, I saw earlier today the Supreme Court is reviewing certain policing procedures now. That's what people have been screaming for fucking 30 years, 40 years, 50 years now. You know what I mean?
People are finally, they just see the NFL is finally like backpedaling. I'm like, well, maybe Colin Kaepernick was right. Okay, we accept. Yeah, maybe what he was talking about was actually true. Just before I came on, there was on Yahoo News or whatever. There was a new article about the NFL kind of like backpedaling on their stance with Colin Kaepernick.
I mean, they conspired against the man. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
And the people will be like, "Oh, Kaepernick's skills or whatnot." Regardless of how he plays football now, he's been out of the NFL for 4 years. If he comes back now, whatever, he's probably a second or third string at best. Well, I mean,
I don't like the stuff that he did subsequent to all that either, though. To be honest, but the kneeling thing, it didn't bother me at all. That's his right. The signing with Nike, man, which is a sweatshop maker.
Yeah, and that's fine. Hell, Tim Tebow was blackballed too. I mean, Tim Tebow was blackballed as well. So it's like the NFL is going to blackball anybody who basically cannot, just conform to their
the company line.
Yeah, pretty much, Tom. Yeah, you nailed it, man.
If you're not lockstep with the company, the NFL's vision, you're out.
Well, there's 32 teams, 32 white owners. There's 32 head coaches, 29 white head coaches.
I mean, how many black people are rich enough to own an NFL team, though? I mean, I do have to ask.
I mean, out of all NFL, sports, I think
Oprah can buy like 10.
Huh?
I mean,
I said Oprah can buy like 10.
No. With the NFL team,
she could probably buy a couple.
Oprah should buy the Browns for half these races.
5 billion or something.
Nah,
and NFL team is about at least $1.5 billion, right? At least.
Well, if she pulled with that guy from the Shark Tank, they could probably get like the AFC North, maybe.
Or buy the Bengals and the Brownies for a couple.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of teams that aren't owned by just one person, of course. So
that's true. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on the STD podcast. Hold on. I had a thing here.
That's already over.
Yeah. Well, it's an hour and a half. We had an hour
and a half, man. Yeah.
Well, you can stick around. We can still talk.
Yeah, we always talk after the show.
Yeah, your interview lasted your interview just ended. Like, dude, I've been following. I signed up for an iRacing race. I wanted to talk some.
We'll talk after the show. You can come on again. We do this every week, brother.
Yeah, next week Friday we'll have you on for the entire show if you got time.
I'll have time.
We'll discuss all the events.
Stick on after the show. If you want to join us after the show, let me know. I'll give you a link. But thanks to our special guest Kelly Pavlik for joining us. Also, Joe Gorenflo for joining us as well. STD podcast is brought to you by Joey Edibles, and we'll see you next week, guys. Get infected, go Browns, and we'll see you in the after show later.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah.